Hello, and welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Easy Talk in English. I'm Anna, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today.
And I'm Mike. We're so glad you've joined us for our fourth episode. Today, we've got a really important topic that many of our listeners have been asking about.
That's right, Mike. Today, we're diving into the world of job interviews in English. Whether you're looking for your first job, thinking about changing careers, or just want to brush up on your interview skills, this episode is for you.
Absolutely, Anna. Job interviews can be nerve-wracking enough in your native language, let alone in English. But don't worry, we've got you covered with tips, tricks, and even some role play to help you feel more confident.
Before we get started, we'd like to remind our listeners that if you're enjoying our podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends who are also learning English. Your support means the world to us.
And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, feel free to leave a comment below. We love hearing from you.
Now, let's get into today's topic. Mike, why don't you start by telling our listeners why mastering job interview skills in English is so important?
Great question, Anna. In today's globalized world, English has become the lingua franca of business. Many international companies conduct their interviews in English, even if it's not the primary language of the country they're based in. Being able to confidently express yourself in English during a job interview can open up a world of opportunities.
Absolutely. It's not just about language skills either. Understanding the cultural nuances and expectations in English-speaking professional environments can give you a real edge in the job market.
That's so true. Shall we start by going over some common interview questions and how to answer them effectively?
Sounds like a plan. Let's begin with one of the most common opening questions. Tell me about yourself. This can be tricky because it's so open-ended. What advice would you give our listeners, Mike?
Great starting point, Anna. The tell me about yourself question is indeed a classic, and it's often used as an icebreaker. The key here is to be concise and relevant. You want to give a brief overview of your professional background, skills, and what makes you a great fit for the position.
Exactly. It's not an invitation to share your life story. A good structure to follow might be start with your current position, mention a couple of key achievements, then briefly touch on your educational background if it's relevant, and finish with why you're interested in this new opportunity.
That's a great structure, Anna. Let's give our listeners an example. I'll play the role of the interviewer, and you can be the interviewee. Ready?
Sounds good. I'm ready.
All right, here we go. So, Anna, tell me about yourself.
Certainly. I'm currently working as a marketing specialist at a tech startup, where I've had the opportunity to lead several successful digital campaigns that increased our user base by 30% over the past year. Prior to that, I completed my degree in marketing and communications, which gave me a solid foundation in both traditional and digital marketing strategies. I'm particularly excited about this position at your company because of your focus on sustainable products, which aligns perfectly with my personal values and professional interests.
Excellent example, Anna. Notice how you kept it concise, focused on relevant information, and tied it back to the position you're interviewing for. That's exactly what interviewers are looking for.
Thanks, Mike. It's important to practice this answer beforehand, but also to keep it natural and not sound too rehearsed. Remember, listeners, you can adapt this structure to your own experiences and the specific job you're applying for.
Absolutely. Now, let's move on to another common question. What are your greatest strengths? How would you approach this one, Anna?
This is a great opportunity to showcase your skills and how they relate to the job. The key is to be specific and provide examples. Instead of just listing qualities, you want to demonstrate how these strengths have benefited your previous employers or projects.
Excellent point. Let's do another role play. I'll be the interviewer again. Anna, what would you say are your greatest strengths?
One of my greatest strengths is my ability to communicate effectively across different teams. In my current role, I often act as a liaison between our marketing, sales, and product development teams. For example, I recently coordinated a product launch where I had to ensure that our marketing message aligned with the product features, while also providing our sales team with the right tools to effectively promote the new product. This resulted in a 25% increase in sales compared to our previous launch. Additionally, I'm highly organized and detail oriented, which helps me manage multiple projects simultaneously without dropping the ball.
That's a great answer, Anna. You provided specific examples and quantifiable results, which is exactly what interviewers want to hear. It's not enough to just say you're a good communicator or that you're organized. You need to prove it with concrete examples.
Exactly, Mike. And it's always good to tailor your strengths to the job description. Look at the key requirements for the position and think about how your strengths align with those.
That's a crucial point. Now, let's tackle a trickier question. What is your greatest weakness? This one often throws candidates off guard. Any tips on how to approach this, Anna?
Ah, the dreaded weakness question. The key here is to be honest but strategic. You want to mention a real weakness, but one that isn't central to the job you're applying for. More importantly, you want to demonstrate how you're actively working to improve in this area.
Great advice. Let's hear an example. I'll ask the question. What would you say is your greatest weakness?
One area I'm constantly working to improve is public speaking. While I'm comfortable presenting to small groups, I used to get nervous when speaking to larger audiences. Recognizing this as an important skill in my field, I've been actively working on it. I joined a local Toastmasters group 6 months ago, where I practice speaking regularly. I've also volunteered to present at team meetings more often. As a result, I've seen significant improvement, and last month I successfully delivered a presentation to our entire company of 100 people.
That's an excellent answer, Anna. You acknowledged a real weakness, but you also showed that you're proactively addressing it. This demonstrates self awareness and a commitment to personal growth, which are qualities that employers value.
Thanks, Mike. It's important to remember that everyone has weaknesses. The interviewer isn't expecting you to be perfect. They want to see that you're self aware and committed to improvement.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to a question that often comes up towards the end of an interview. Do you have any questions for us? How important is this question? And what kind of questions should candidates ask?
This is actually a crucial part of the interview, Mike. It's your chance to show that you've done your research on the company and that you're genuinely interested in the position. It's also an opportunity to gather more information to help you decide if this is the right job for you.
Excellent points. What are some good questions to ask?
Some good questions might include, can you tell me more about the day-to-day responsibilities of this position? What are the biggest challenges that someone in this position would face? What are the opportunities for professional development within the company? Can you tell me more about the team I'd be working with? What are the next steps in the interview process?
Those are all great questions, Anna. They show that you're thinking seriously about the role and how you would fit into the company. It's also a good idea to ask questions that arose from your research about the company or from what you've learned during the interview.
Absolutely, Mike. And remember, listeners, the interview is a two-way street. It's not just about impressing the employer, it's also about finding out if this job and company are right for you.
That's a crucial point, Anna. Now, let's talk about some general interview tips. What advice would you give our listeners about preparing for an interview?
Great question, Mike. Preparation is key to a successful interview. Here are some tips. Research the company thoroughly. Know their products or services, their mission statement, recent news or achievements, and if possible, their company culture. Review the job description carefully and think about how your skills and experiences align with what they're looking for. Prepare examples from your past experiences that demonstrate your skills and achievements. The STAR method, situation, task, action, result, is a great way to structure these examples. Practice common interview questions with a friend or in front of a mirror. This can help you feel more confident and articulate during the actual interview. Prepare questions to ask the interviewer. This shows your interest and engagement.
Those are all excellent tips, Anna. I'd also add that it's important to pay attention to nonverbal communication. Things like maintaining good eye contact, having a firm handshake, and sitting up straight can make a big difference in how you're perceived.
Absolutely, Mike. Body language is crucial. And don't forget to dress appropriately for the interview. It's usually better to be slightly overdressed than underdressed.
Great point. Now let's talk about some common mistakes that people make in job interviews. What should our listeners avoid?
Some common pitfalls to avoid include being late. Always aim to arrive about 10 to 15 minutes early. Speaking negatively about previous employers or colleagues. Even if you had a bad experience, try to frame it positively or focus on what you learned. Not having specific examples to back up your claims. If you say you're a problem solver, be ready with an example of a problem you solved. Failing to ask questions at the end of the interview. This can make you seem uninterested. Not following up after the interview. Sending a thank you email within 24 hours can leave a positive final impression.
Those are all great points, Anna. I'd add one more. Don't lie or exaggerate your skills or experiences. It's important to be honest in interviews. If you don't know something, it's better to admit it and express your willingness to learn.
Absolutely, Mike. Honesty and integrity are crucial. Employers value candidates who are genuine and show a willingness to learn and grow.
Now, let's talk about a topic that many job seekers find challenging: discussing salary expectations. Any advice on how to handle this, Anna?
This can indeed be a tricky subject, Mike. The key is to be prepared. Research the typical salary range for the position in your area. Websites like Glassdoor or PayScale can be helpful for this.
That's great advice. And how should candidates approach the actual discussion?
If possible, try to avoid being the first to mention a specific number. You could say something like, I'm open to discussing what you feel is a fair salary for this position. Could you tell me the range you have budgeted for this role? This puts the ball in their court. If they insist on you providing a number, give a range rather than a specific figure. For example, based on my research and experience, I'm looking for a salary in the range of X to Y. However, I'm open to discussion and would consider the entire compensation package.
Excellent advice, Anna. It's also worth remembering that salary is just one part of the compensation package. Candidates should also consider other benefits like health insurance, retirement plans, vacation time, and opportunities for professional development.
Absolutely, Mike. The total package is what's important, not just the salary figure.
Now let's talk about something that's become increasingly common: virtual interviews. With many companies adopting remote work policies, video interviews have become more prevalent. Any tips for our listeners on how to ace a virtual interview?
Great topic, Mike. Virtual interviews present their own unique challenges. Here are some tips. Test your technology beforehand. Make sure your internet connection, camera, and microphone are all working well. Choose a quiet, well-lit location with a neutral background. Dress professionally, just as you would for an in-person interview. Make eye contact by looking directly into the camera, not at the screen. Have a copy of your resume and the job description nearby for easy reference. Minimize potential interruptions. If you're at home, let your family or roommates know you'll be in an interview.
Those are all excellent points, Anna. I'd add that it's also important to show enthusiasm and energy. It can be harder to convey this through a screen, so you might need to amp up your expressions and tone a bit.
Great addition, Mike. And don't forget to follow up after a virtual interview just as you would after an in-person one. A thank you email is still appropriate and appreciated.
Absolutely. Now, we've covered a lot of ground today. Let's do a quick recap of the main points for our listeners.
Great idea, Mike. Here are the key takeaways from today's episode. Prepare thoroughly for common interview questions like, tell me about yourself and what are your strengths and weaknesses. Use specific examples and the STAR method to illustrate your skills and experiences. Research the company and prepare thoughtful questions to ask the interviewer. Pay attention to nonverbal communication, including body language and dress. Be honest and avoid common interview mistakes like speaking negatively about previous employers. Be prepared to discuss salary expectations, but try to let the employer bring it up first. For virtual interviews, test your technology and choose an appropriate setting. Always follow up with a thank you email after the interview.
Excellent summary, Anna. Remember, listeners, the key to a successful interview is preparation and practice. The more you prepare, the more confident you'll feel and the better you'll perform.
Absolutely, Mike. And don't forget, every interview is a learning experience. Even if you don't get the job, you'll gain valuable experience that will help you in future interviews.
That's a great point, Anna. Before we wrap up, do you have any final words of encouragement for our listeners?
I'd just like to say, don't be too hard on yourself. Job interviews can be stressful, but remember that the interviewer wants you to succeed. They're looking for someone to fill the position, and they're hoping you might be that person. So take a deep breath, be yourself, and show them what you have to offer.
Wonderful advice, Anna. And remember, listeners, the more interviews you do, the more comfortable you'll become with the process. It's a skill like any other. It improves with practice.
Absolutely, Mike. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope you found this information helpful and that you feel more prepared for your next job interview in English.
We certainly covered a lot today. If you have any questions or if there are any topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please leave a comment below. We love hearing from you and tailoring our content to your needs.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends who are learning English. Your support helps us reach more learners and create more helpful content.
Thank you all for listening to Easy Talk in English. Until next time, keep practicing and good luck with your interviews.
Goodbye, everyone, and see you in our next episode.